your mind gets into a third person mentality versus a first person mentality?
Yes, dissociation can indeed involve a shift from first-person to third-person perspective. This phenomenon is particularly evident in dissociative identity disorder, where individuals may experience sudden alterations in their sense of self, feeling as though they're observing themselves from a distance. In the dissociative subtype of PTSD, patients often report feeling detached from their own experiences, as if watching events unfold from an external viewpoint.
Okay, thank you, Alexa. I think they got
You're
a lot
welcome.
of
Happy
stuff
to help you understand
correct
how
there.
dissociation works.
Okay. Okay. So, anyways, I got dissociated through a mechanism of where they put electrodes on my head, and I did this thing where I felt the tension, I produced it, and then I'm like feeling the tension, and then I'm trying to not do it. I'm trying to get out of it within that tension, which absolutely doesn't work. Because what happens is your thinking, like all your thinking, the thoughts that give you visualization thoughts, when you do a particular tension or feel or fear a tension, those visualization thoughts actually basically turn into the tension, and then what is left is these real shallow thoughts, and they are shallow thoughts that are also kind of like, if you try to, once you start breaking out and trying to visualize more, they'll even those shallow thoughts are kind of like third person-ish. Like you're kind of in the third person versus the first person. So the flow of thoughts, it's almost like, it kind of feels like they're almost a little bit to the side of you even, versus head on direct. So your thoughts are supposed to be totally within yourself, and when you are associated back into your realm of being as you are innately supposed to be, the feelings, the thoughts will feel like they're more just straight out ahead of you in the first person. So like in the first person, and then also your feelings will be projected straight out in front of you too, like that gut emotional feelings, and those will always be there along with the thought flow, of which is visualization types of thinking, and you're constantly having visualization thoughts, not these shallow thoughts that are basically not there. Based on how hard the tension gets, it's like literally no thoughts. It's just pure just tension at all. It's like so no thoughts at all, which is and then it really becomes so much difficult to get out of it. And so now that I have explained what happens within getting into it, I want to explain when you get into that dissociation tension feeling where your mind is like kind of in third person, like how to revert back into first person, into visualized thinking that connect and flow with your thoughts again, with more visualizations to get deeper relaxed. So then, like these other techniques like the grounding and all that stuff, if you're doing that with the tension at the same time, it won't get you out of the dissociation. Although it will help in that the tension will be relieved because you're getting to the right kind of method. You're close but not there. And the reason why is because it has to be done with the visualization thinking. That is the number one thing that you have to get back. And even though these other processes of like grounding and getting within yourself, getting first person self, it's kind of like things that you're trying to do without thinking. So because if the tension is there, that means there's less thoughts because they are transferred into tension instead. So that's not going to fully get it out, although they're good. I'm just saying, which steps do you do first in everything? And the grounding is the least important of them, unless you're thinking of grounding as trying to get, like say you're kicked out of your avatar, out of your body, you want to get into your avatar, into your body. Okay, if you're gonna consider that to be grounding, with you popping back into your body, then yes, that is a much more important grounding than the type of grounding where it's like, is there anything on where I'm feeling and, where I'm like, oh, I'm touching it, I'm feeling it. Okay, if you're kind of feeling tense while doing that, it's gonna feel different than when there's thought generations happening with your visualizations and you're also thinking and visualizing and you feel relaxed and there's emotions and then you're also touching grounding. Okay, it's gonna be a different feeling, if you will. But the thing is, my whole point is that step one and number one is to get your visualization thoughts back. Now, if you are in like a tension state, and the shell thoughts are there, you'll also notice that it'll be like third person. It'll automatically be third person because what will happen is like that disconnection between your thinking and your feelings happens badly, and it's horrific. But in any case, so I would say, like, if you are in that dissociation feeling, I would say, okay, think of yourself doing an action, and probably in those shallow thoughts, even though this is right, whatever you want to do, try to get your visualization thoughts, think of you doing actions or whatever, you will probably just by default think of yourself in the third person doing an action. So you might as well just be thinking of someone else doing the action. Let's take example of jumping off a cliff into some freezing cold water, and these are things that I did when I lived in Colorado. That's where I went to college, where, if I was not in dissociation, I would, that is just a joy to want to go jump off the cliffs. The fact that it was freezing cold water was like no big deal at all. That's just fun and everything. That's not an element that would make you not want to do it or be a painful element within your head, because you are in first person, and when you imagine yourself doing it, you are that person that's doing it is also yourself, because you are back in first person, and you are also imagining the person that is doing it as a person in first person. So when you start getting back into association, your visualization thoughts, because first, you want to think, and they're going to be third person, and yes, you want to switch it, you want to get your thinking into first person thoughts, which is where, instead of my thinking being as you see it, where I'm wearing this red shirt and black hat, my observance of what I look like is not going to be what you're seeing. It's going to be point of view, what I'm seeing. What am I seeing? I'm only seeing my hands and maybe the top of my head or the top of my hat. Okay? So that's your visualization. That's what I mean by getting into the first person. You want to think about that. Think about the difference of a third person doing it. So, but not only that, but also what do I see when I'm in first person? I'm only just thinking and relating to everyone else as also being people who are in the first person, and they just think about whatever, and they're also always visualizing everything and everything being done within themselves being in first person. I'm visualizing the other person being in a first person state of mind, even though I might see them in the third person. I also know and relate to them as being in a first person mentality in which they are visualizing, and your visualization thoughts feel like they are coming straight out of you. Of course, when you're thinking and doing and being, you're not thinking. It's kind of like when you're when you're dreaming, you don't remember all the details of it. You know it when it's happening in the dream, but when you wake up, you can't remember. I'm describing the things that you won't, and no one notices, but if they did say, okay, I'm gonna try to notice, wait, where are my thoughts feeling like they're coming from, then they can probably grasp it and stuff. I'm describing these details that are like, things that you won't even be thinking of, even though you are thinking straight out from yourself. It feels kind of more like it's coming straight. Your thoughts will be like straight out of your, maybe from here, and your whole aura of emotional feelings are from the gut. It mostly feels like most of your feelings are just straight from here out, kind of thing. When you are in the first person and you're visualizing and you're thinking as correctly. Because from then, finally, then you want to think positive. Like everything, which is really easy to do. And also, too, like that's the thing when you're in that dissociated tension thing. What happens is that you will be in this sort of tension feeling and you won't be able to relax it because the thoughts are needed to the grounding techniques will make it not as bad, but because there's not the thought generation happening, it makes it not as effective. So that's why step one, get those thought visualization style thoughts going. And then get them in the first person. And then the grounding, you don't even have to deal with the grounding. Just, that's just like automatic with just when you're thinking of your first person being. You just think of that first person you doing it with excited enthusiasm, relaxed enthusiasm, and then that's what you just automatically become, because the brain is programmed where just the visualizations of yourself doing it as you want to do it just automatically happen with only having to use your thought visualizations, and then it just automatically is the way. You understand the difference? What I'm explaining, these details, right? That's why getting your thought visualizations back is the most important. Once those thought visualizations go back, that tension that was the blocker of it, that was the tension, the tension was what blanked out the thoughts, right? And so getting the thoughts back, do you try to get the tension out first, or do you try to get the thoughts out first, right? Well, that's the particular thing. And yes, it's the thoughts out first, but that's the particular thing, because say I can go in and get stuck in tension and get out of it, like back and forth, very easily. It's much more easy to get stuck in the tension, stuck in the dissociation, right? I would just think of that tension feeling and fear it, and just the thought of it and the fear of it would make me think of the tension, and then that just makes it appear, and then you kind of like panic about the tension feeling, and then you're entrapped in it thinking, ooh, how do I stop this tension feeling? Okay, right? And then you got to get out of it. How do you get out of it? Start generating those thoughts again, get them back into first person, then get in control and just, keep thinking of yourself within the first person, doing your actions just ahead of your actions, also in the first person. So it's like you're in the first person, also imagining yourself in doing everything in the first person. And by in the first person, what am I imagining then? I'm just imagining what I'm seeing. You understand? Because the first person doesn't see me as I see myself on the selfie video. The first person thinking at the most sees myself by looking down at myself and at my hands and everything. So all my visualizations are all just on the action. They're all on you. They're all on what you're thinking in your first person thought controlled mentality. Thought controlling the feeling mentality, thought connection, direct thought to feeling connection, which is what is broken in the dissociation, where you click into attention feeling, thoughts go shallow, third person-y shallow. So these are the differences as to how it all works. A huge difference, huge reality of this. And also, so my steps before was the thing where I'm trying to ground, I'm trying to like do things. But anyways, of those steps, I would say forget about the grounding part. You're not going to need it when you break out and you have when you have visualizations within the first person. The whole thing of everything, all the other stuff is really just automatic. But you can do grounding, but your grounding will be just, you just concentrating more on what the solid feelings of everything. That's fine. With the thoughts and generate even more of a gut feeling or something, that's fine. It's fine, but it's not the first step to do. And if there is a first step that isn't thinking involved, it would be, I used to just be like, okay, first step is just get in control of my body, okay? And then try to add thoughts to that. Try to add thoughts to the control of my body. Try to think about try to think of my hand going, let's pick up, middle, top, straight down. And then up, middle, top, straight down, okay? Right. Okay. But and that is a way, but I'm just saying, first step, control grounding within your body, sure. But I also just say, but if you generate those thoughts, just get your thought actions. Sure, maybe they'll start off in the third person. You don't want that. Get them in the first person. Take control in that way. Those that visualization thoughts is what is happening at all times in the associated innate being and thinking and feeling person, right? So And this can be effective in treating all mental problems are rooted from this. For example, now depression. What is depression? Depression is something in which you think of sad thoughts of the past, and you ruminate in them to a point where that creates this really like this hopeless sad feeling in you, and then you focus, and then you get a focus on this horrible sad feeling, and it does the same thing, shallows the thoughts where they're not deep visualization type of thoughts, and then you are stuck in that focus of the feeling, which is just ruminating on the generation of something where you got this hopeless sadness feeling. And I would say that is depression is negative thoughts of the past in rumination mode, where they create a feeling that you get stuck in that feeling, which shallows your thoughts in the same generation for getting out of it, like within, and also, you get into the first person. It's also jumping back into your avatar. I even say like, let's skip that, but you're jumping back in your avatar into your body, but also I call within the avatar, you're jumping into the car and then driving. I call that the secondary thoughts of not just going in first person would be in your avatar, but also jumping into the car and then driving the vehicle would be the first person of thinking, imagining yourself also in the first person doing things, whether it's visualizations of what you're doing just ahead of yourself or visualizations of far off in the future self. And it can be you floating through space in an astronaut suit. It could be just what you're going to do next is picking up a fork. Okay, all first person at that point. And okay, now we got to the rumination of negative thoughts of the past is depression. Rumination of negative thoughts of the future, which is called anxiety, which creates fear feelings that you get stuck into as well, which is the tension. You ruminate of the fearful thoughts of the future, negative thoughts of the future, let's say, and that creates a tension feeling. And then within that tension feeling, it's kind of like your thoughts turn shallow, because your thoughts really kind of turn into the focus on the tension, and your feelings, instead of being like the emotional feelings, also absorb into attention instead. They transfer into attention instead of the what they're supposed to be in the first person. Okay, you understand? So it's the same type of method for breaking out of that as well. And I would say, so now we are in a position of what is the order of operations. And I used to have all these methods of doing it, and I couldn't figure which one should I do first. Like, how about just all of them all at once, but yeah, it's kind of like that. But it's important, because like I said, you don't want to try the grounding method first, because you can be in tension and kind of thoughtless while doing that, and that's not a method that breaks you out. It's the thought visualizations that are the most important. The thought visualizations for allowing you to relax and everything is absolutely what works. The thoughts of it is what allows you to do it. But also that first person, and what does that first person mean? It doesn't just mean going to first person but not have any thoughts as well while you're trying to be in first person because you're still feeling a little tension. No, that's not good enough. It's better than nothing, but it's not good enough without the thoughts attached to thinking about what that means, thinking about what I am in the third person, transferring it, what I am in the first person, what that means, where these thoughts are coming from. They're coming straight out of me in this inside of my own avatar, okay? And then, keep visualizing, and while also, getting that tension transferred into the connection with relaxed emotional feeling connection within the thoughts. Once you start thinking, that tension can go back into the connection of the visualized thoughts. But I would say, just because when you look on real detailed level, what comes first? It was actually the thought of the fear, of the tension, even though it almost feels like it's simultaneous. That the thought of the fear first happened, and then the thought of the tension happened. Thought of tension happens. It feels like it's simultaneously, so you're not trying to stop tension before generating thoughts. You're trying to think first, and even though it might even be simultaneously, think first and stop tension. Get visualizations back. Put the visualizations into the first person back. Then visualize yourself doing everything while also being in the first person. And then keeping those relaxed. And then also, say back to the idea when I in college out in the mountains in Colorado, jumping into the cold water. I was with a friend who had tension problems because we talked about this. I did this tension thing back in high school accidentally. For me, it was because I did this biofeedback wrong, in which I tried to deliberately do tension up in my head and stuff, and then I started feeling the tension, and I was like, oh, this is how I'm supposed to be able to concentrate on the exterior world even better. But no, this doesn't work. So how do I stop this tension? That's how it all started. And I got stuck in this tension dissociation for years after that, right? And then in college, I was able to I'm forced to have to try to think as much as I can. And I mean, even then, I even tried to go with, because when you're stuck in that state, it's kind of almost your thoughts are so shallow that even trying to break out of it, and the feeling is so different than what it is when you're in tension, that you're kind of you're almost afraid of if I get my emotions back, will my emotions get carried away from me? Because if shallow thoughts with emotions, well, you won't have shallow thoughts, you'll have deep thoughts, so your emotions won't get away from you. But in any case, I started getting into this moral philosophy stuff, going for the greatest happiness for the greatest number. So at first I was like, okay, I can get start thinking, no problem, nothing, even if nothing to fear, because my philosophy, I'm choosing my philosophy to be one that wants the greatest happiness for the greatest number, moral philosophies or something, right? Or Kantian philosophies of, if it's better, if it's bad for everyone to do it, then and it's bad for you to do it, whatever. So I'm secure in that I don't have to worry about thinking bad thoughts if once I do get my thinking back, right? I mean, it sounds silly and everything, but when you're in this, it's like a genius who, got his brain taken away from, in that state of mind, even though he is innately a genius, he's not, and that's what happens, right? So, but yes, get your brain back in there, genius. Start thinking. Get your and then it'll be just almost automatic for you to be able to relax and get those feelings and thoughts connected with each other. But that's the key, that first person. You keep talking about the first step. First step, yeah, getting control of your body, but really, first step, getting your thinking going, and then second step, getting into the first person, kind of, knowing that first person mentality of getting into your avatar is the number one thing that you're first trying to get back into, and combined with thinking about what that is, getting thought visualization, start thinking of actions in which you want to do, even if it starts off kind of third person-ish, get it into the first person, as long as it's being the thought generations, then the tension will just automatically start to release within those visualizations of you within that first person, and then you're just thinking of actions that make you happy. And then also too, man, I went off on a tangent there. I was talking about that person that I was dealing with who had, I would say he was dissociated, but I showed him this cliff area where we can jump in the water, you swing off a rope from a cliff into the water. It's so fun, right? And you land in the cold water and everything. He wouldn't do it because he wouldn't just jump off the little cliff because he was so afraid that the water was so cold, right? And I'm like, what are you talking about? The water's cold. You just kind of and then you just accept that or whatever and be happy with that or not care about that. As far as he's just so worried about that feeling of it being real cold. And that's kind of a dissociated type of worry, because if you are associated, when you think about jumping into the cold water, you connected with that jumping into the cold water is a feeling of liking it, kind of thing, or not of a feeling of woo fun, just automatically when you're thinking of jumping in the cold water, ooh fun, and then you get out of it and whatever, you can towel off, whatever. It's so you kind of embrace that. Yeah, it's a little bit painful, I guess, but your visualizations before you're just ahead of doing it all is that you know what it is and you're gonna do it, or or they're scared that they're gonna, it's it's not gonna be safe, and it's like, look, we see people jumping in, it's plenty deep, you can see the water's crystal clear, it's real deep, and where you're jumping, you're just jumping into this deep water, it's not gonna hurt you, and the water's cold, it's fine, it feels good, I guess, it's not so, you know what I mean? I'm saying that's what thinking positive is. When I say thinking positive, I'm saying all these things of when you're imagining just ahead of yourself in the first person, or farther out, you're always in the first person, and it's always being of you being positive about everything, or you thinking of being funny all the time. Like, that will be like a worry of social anxieties or something like that. Well, I wouldn't have that, because I'm thinking of myself in the first person when I do it. Just like, these are real quick thinking thoughts at all times of where you're just always thinking of funny stuff and being funny, and and it's like, even there's no negative thoughts within this first person thinking. That's how so it is constant positive thinking, but it's just that system of how to think, where you're thinking from, your that initial transfer, and then the idea of you're not going down negative thought road, not that negative thought rumination that can create a painful feeling of anxiety, sadness, whatever it is. Those negatives, you in that way, yes, you're always keeping it positive, yes. So, which is very easy to control when you're in the first person, fully focused. So step 1, get that thinking back in the visualization form, get it into that first person realm, first person in your avatar, and then first person in the driver's seat, which the driver's seat, let's call that the thinking of myself doing the actions, are also in the first person. And my thinking of everything that I'm seeing, including the relation to everyone else, is visualizations of them also being in the first person mentality that is connected with their thoughts. And then you are keeping it positive. So as far as what you will automatically feel when that happens is, you will feel very, and you can try to do techniques after that too to even relax even more and better. Take a deep breath and hold it and stuff. You can then add more thought-generated thoughts on the feelings of everything. Sure, that's fine, but you won't even really, that's not even that important at that point. But yes, those would not be the first steps, is my whole point, because that's not how it works for getting a reconnection back into association, back into your body and the realm of how it all is. You understand? Because everything needs to be done with the thought visualization connection. So you want to make those your first steps, even though the other methods can still be okay, helpful. They won't work if you're not making what I just said, the first steps, getting it into a thought visualization, more of a form within the first person form. Okay? And that's the secret code for how to get out of it, and probably how to get out of all forms of mental problems. And it's as far as being able to detail it on this type of level, I've never heard it being done, but so I think I solved it all here, and now everyone gets to live as they innately are supposed to, where they can just concentrate on everything else as far as making a better world than what it was when you're in it. And as far as all that type of thinking, as the not worrying, things like how to not worry about what other people think of you. They're mostly everyone only cares about themselves. Don't worry about someone remembering how you were past whatever in the past, because everyone is so just primarily concerned with themselves. They won't care about what you might have been in the past type of thing, and you don't have to care about that either. Things like forgiving yourself for making a mistake. There's a lot more methods of psychology that I also know about, that I worked through as well in the past. And I have all that information as well. So, I mean, hell, maybe I could get into that as well some other time. But for now, the most important thing is what I just talked about. You gotta be able to just function, in your innate way. And then we can deal with keeping it positive, not worrying about things you shouldn't worry about. So yeah, I got this thing called, that I wrote for myself as far as all those methods, like through Napoleon Hill type of thinking and stuff. I should, print that out and try to remind me of that stuff as well. So anyways, I just don't want to stop talking, I guess. I don't know. What the hell? So now go